Here's a psychology fact you're not ready for. The more you try to impress people, the less they respect you. That sounds backwards, doesn't it? You were taught that being nice earns respect. That being agreeable keeps relationships stable. That avoiding conflict makes you mature. But what if the very things you're doing to gain approval are quietly lowering your value in other people's minds? There's a psychological pattern behind this. Experts call it approval-seeking behavior. And once you understand it, you'll start seeing it everywhere, in your conversations, in your friendships, in your relationships, even in the way you text. You reply instantly. You over-explain simple decisions. You apologize for things that weren't your fault. You adjust your opinions depending on who's in the room. You think you're being kind. But underneath that kindness is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being disliked. Fear of conflict. Fear of not being enough. And your brain is trying to protect you. Your mind is wired for survival, not respect. Thousands of years ago, being rejected by your tribe meant danger.
Is in the simplicity
Isolation
of it all.
meant vulnerability.
Let me explain.
So your nervous system developed a powerful sensitivity to social exclusion. That ancient wiring is still inside you. That's why rejection feels painful. That's why awkward moments replay in your head. That's why silence makes you uncomfortable. That's why you panic when someone's tone changes slightly.
Clarify.
Your brain interprets social rejection as a threat.
So
it
first thing
activates
you
a
need
coping
to know
mechanism,
is that the
approval
autumn
seeking.
leaves are falling.
It whispers,
really
blend in. Don't upset anyone.
Who, me?
Stay agreeable.
But I didn't do anything.
Keep them happy. In the short term, it works. You avoid arguments. You avoid tension. You avoid discomfort. But in the long term, something else happens. You lose clarity. You lose boundaries. You lose identity. And when identity fades, respect fades with it. Because respect is not built on compliance. It's built on certainty. There's an uncomfortable truth most people don't. People don't lose respect for you because you're kind. They lose respect when your kindness has no boundaries. When you constantly agree. When you never say no. When you laugh at disrespect. When you over-explain your choices. When you change your opinions to match the room. Your brain thinks it's staying safe. But socially, you're lowering your perceived status. This isn't about being dominant or aggressive. It's about psychological signals. Humans constantly scan for status. It's automatic. Micro-behaviors determine how you're perceived. Eye contact. Vocal tone. Speaking pace. Emotional control. Willingness to disagree. When you appear overly eager, overly apologetic, overly reactive, your presence shrinks. And when your presence shrinks, respect follows. There's a principle in psychology called reactance. When people sense independence, when they sense that you're not easily controlled or manipulated, they subconsciously assign you higher value. Why? Because scarcity increases worth. If you're always available, there's no tension. If you always adjust, there's no mystery. If you never challenge, there's no strength. The people you naturally respect probably aren't rude. They're not loud. They're not aggressive. But they are firm. They don't over-explain. They don't chase validation. They don't beg to be included. They don't panic when someone disagrees. They're comfortable being disliked. And that comfort signals power. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. You might be the one teaching people how to treat you. If you constantly tolerate small disrespect, you train others that it's acceptable. If you never enforce boundaries, people assume there aren't any. If you prioritize others while neglecting yourself, you create imbalance. And psychology always follows patterns. One of the biggest silent signals that lowers respect is over-explaining. When someone questions you and you immediately defend your decision with extra details, it signals uncertainty. Confident people state their position calmly. Then they pause. Silence feels uncomfortable to you because you interpret silence as rejection. But silence is often strength. Another signal is over-apologizing. Sorry becomes your automatic response. Sorry for asking questions. Sorry for speaking up. Sorry for taking space. Over time, that language shapes identity. It positions you as smaller in the interaction. And the brain registers hierarchy instantly. Chasing responses is another subtle behavior. Double texting. Over-investing. Making someone your priority while you're their option. The person who needs less often leads more. That's not cruelty. That's social psychology. Avoiding conflict at all costs is another trap. You say it's fine when it's not. You swallow opinions. You suppress reactions. But suppressed resentment builds internally. Externally, it teaches others there are no consequences. Respect requires consequence. Without consequence, boundaries are invisible. And then there's the constant shapeshifting. Different personality for different groups. Different opinions depending on who's listening. You think you're adapting. But people sense inconsistency. And inconsistency reduces trust. When trust drops, respect follows. At the root of all of this is one belief: I'm not enough as I am. So you edit yourself. You smooth out your strong opinions. You soften your tone. You dim your presence. Because deep down, you fear that if you show your full self, people will leave. But here's the paradox. The more you hide yourself to keep people, the more forgettable you become. And people don't respect what feels replaceable. You don't need to become colder. You don't need to become harsher. You don't need to dominate conversations. You need clarity. Clarity in your boundaries. Clarity in your decisions. Clarity in your tone. Clarity in your values. If you want to shift this dynamic, start small. Stop explaining every decision. This works better for me. A sentence is enough. Then pause. Let the silence exist. The discomfort you feel in that silence is growth. Replace unnecessary apologies with gratitude. Instead of sorry I'm late, say thanks for waiting. Instead of sorry for bothering you, say quick question. Language rewires identity. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes perception. Delay instant responses. You don't need to reply within seconds. Create space. Space builds value. Value builds respect. Practice saying no without emotional speeches. Not dramatic. Not defensive. Just calm. I can't. The end. And most importantly, shift your internal question. Stop asking, do they like me? Start asking, do I like them? That single mental shift changes the power dynamic. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. Trying to be liked by everyone makes you average. And average energy rarely commands presence. The moment you stop chasing approval is the moment your posture changes. Your tone changes. Your energy changes. And people notice. Not because you became different, but because you stopped shrinking. Respect doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from being solid in who you are, even if that means some people walk away. And if someone leaves because you finally expressed a boundary, they weren't respecting you in the first place. Rejection filters the wrong people. Approval attracts the wrong ones. You don't have a respect problem. You have a boundary problem. And the moment you choose clarity over comfort, your entire social dynamic begins to shift. You don't need to demand respect. You need to embody it. Because when your presence feels grounded, when your words feel measured, when your boundaries feel calm but firm, respect follows naturally. Not forced. Not chased. Not begged for. Earned through identity. And that starts the moment you stop trying to impress everyone in the room.